moment. Look at that. Whee! Okay. I've got 0 concurrent viewers, which is perfect. I want to, it's going to be exponential. So 30 minutes from now, I'll have 1. 2 hours from now, I'll have 8. Okay. Let's just see here. Okay, how can I stop this? Hello, hello, hello. Okay, how can I stop this? Okay. Okay. We getting feedback now, or is this okay? Okay. Getting feedback now, or is this okay? All right, seems okay. So let's do this. Okay. All right, seems okay. So let's do this. Okay. Welcome back. It's time for another edition of Dan Answers the Questions That Can't Be Answered and answers them perfectly. It's time for another edition of Dan Answers the Questions That Can't Be Answered and answers them perfectly. It's time for another edition of Dan Answers the Questions That Can't Be Answered and answers them perfectly. It's time for another edition of Dan Answers the Questions That Can't Be Answered and answers them perfectly. It's time for another edition of Dan Answers the Questions That Can't Be Answered and answers them perfectly. It's time for another edition of
so let's do this. Let us do this. Oops. Shit. Fucking kidding me? Fuck.
Good filmmaking isn't all clever dialogue and
Fuck.
Good filmmaking isn't all clever dialogue and
Okay, I am mine.
Fuck.
Good filmmaking isn't all clever dialogue and
Okay, I am mine.
Fuck.
Good filmmaking.
Okay, Pam. Good technology. Good technology. All right. Okay, there's that. And then there's this. This is a lot of thing to keep track of here. Okay. All right, so welcome back and welcome to the first ever Primavera edition of Dan Answers the Last Questions live, which I'll be quite honest, these last questions have been getting easier and easier, and so I've been like trying to do challenging things to make it harder, shutting off one half of my brain and answering it, shutting off the other half of the brain and answering it. I have perfect control of my corpus callosum. Anyway, I haven't been able. I've even been almost sober and answered these questions. So I'm looking for a challenge. So I thought if I do it live with the added impetus of like there might be another singular person watching, this could be crazy. So, but anyway, we are joined with our good friend here, Straffe Hendrik, which I haven't had in a while, but it's a good Belgian quad, and it's brewed right in the. Is it brewed in Ghent or is it brewed in? Is it brewed in Bruges? Bruges. It's brewed in Bruges, and it's a tasty beer. It's a very tasty beer. Also joined by my good friend Jack Harrer, who's probably going to make his presence known on one or two occasions here, so everything's good. Anyway, where are we? Okay, so we left off with this question from David G. Myers, who is the professor of psychology at Hope College. And Hope College is, I had a few graduates of my high school that went to Hope. Most of them went to Calvin and then other places. But Hope and Calvin were like the competing, religious, but we're still going to be a college, so good luck with that. But anyway, I'm sure a lot of their stuff is just very, you separate out the other stuff, you're good to go. Anyway, David G. Myers' last question is, does religious engagement promote or impede morality, altruism, and human flourishing? And I'm going to say this, and this has never happened before, but, it's happened one time before. One time out of the 130 questions, I have thought about the question a little bit beforehand. This is the second time. The other time is way back towards the beginning, and I'll let you try and find it, see if you know which one it is. Anyhow, anywhere, anyway. I wrote down some notes, so I'm going to read the notes as I put them into my telephone. I put notes in my telephone. It's crazy. It's not 1986 anymore. Notes into my telephone, and I'm going to read the notes as I see them and then expound on them. Okay, the title here is Ridgian Question. Fair enough. First note. Under Ridgian Question. 1. No answer but Ev Tiane Sitness, as others Yoda, only what to take with you. Okay. Yeah, some of those are words. Okay. So the first thing that I thought about this answer, and it's that the boring answer, but probably the only actually kind of correct answer that you could answer this with is you have to measure this almost like you'd measure species success, or if you could measure a kind of like do the people that have this religious engagement, do they flourish? Do the populations that enjoy this, do they flourish? Do they? It's basically a math thing. And that's not the most exciting way to answer this, because it isn't really telling you anything. It's just like, well, look and see if the religious engagement, actually produces more offspring, and then you can say yes, it's good. And then you want to subdivide this into morality, altruism, and human flourishing. I guess human flourishing, I want to say, sounds bad. I almost want to say the other two ways of asking the question don't even make sense. I'll get to that. Human flourishing is kind of probably the only one that you could be objective about enough to actually say, because you live, you die, you procreate, you don't. You can count up the numbers. It's a fairly, you just do the math on it, and that actually, as soon as you start taking, excuse me one moment here. One moment just to, yep, I think we're still going. One moment just to, yep, I think we're still going. One moment just to, I hope you don't demand perfection. Perfection. Where was I? We were on to flourishing. So it's almost like counting an evolutionary species by its success by, where was I? We were on to flourishing. So I've got to turn that off. It's almost like counting an evolutionary species by its success by, where was I? We were on to flourishing. So I've got to turn that off. It's almost like I'm getting feedback from everything, and that's just annoying the shit out of me. Sorry about that. There we go. So anyway, you can do the numbers, you can do the math, and count up if that religion happens to be successful for the group, the tribe, the species. You can count it on different levels: the individual, the group, the whatever, the nation. But as soon as you try and answer this, and this is where my Yoda comes in, because I'm thinking about in like The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke is getting trained by Yoda, and then he sees like the dark that goes into the dark tree and stuff, where he meets Vader beforehand. Luke's like, well, what's in there? And Yoda's like, only what you take with you. If you try and answer this in other ways about morality, altruism, anyway, then that is more than just counting the numbers of like, is it successful because it leads to, good breeding. You are going to take in with it the biases that are going to kind of cloud your thinking, or let's not even say cloud your thinking because it's a little too judgmental, but you're just going to be taking in the biases that are going to answer that question. Because even if you get to something as scientific, if you want to make it scientific, as like saying, oh, I can watch when someone religiously, worships or something like that, and their dopamine levels are increased, and there's a more pleasurable experience, and, it's good to go. And so you'd be like, that's an absolute benefit because I can see the numbers rise on my dopamine chart or whatever. So that's got to be good. Well, that is still subject to the thought of like, well, maybe that's good like a drug is good and it makes you feel good now, but it might be stopping you from doing something else that's good. It's not just, so it's not, you can't just say dopamine hits or something is necessarily good. So you are going to take with you all the biases that are part of your ideology now. Like, what's more important, the search for truth or pleasure or equal? I mean, like, all of those things will be bound up in any attempt to measure this, other than the simple math of, did the creatures that engaged in this, were they more successful or less successful? So it is ultimately the only real way to answer it is the uninteresting way to answer it. Yeah. Note number 2. I'm going to read. Up question. What realities were called favor religion? I don't type well. Those where we die. Marks on religion. What? Whew. Up question. What wait. Okay. I got it now. It only takes me 10 minutes to read my own notes and figure out what I was talking about. I was talking about this idea of approaching the question kind of from the opposite way. And instead of saying, okay, you know, what do religions help? Look at it from a way different perspective and say, what types of reality, what types of universe, what types of whatever would favor religion? So, you know, if you think about like conceptions of reality that would favor or not favor religion, what would those be? So I'm turning the kind of question on its head a little bit. But if you kind of think about it that way, this is where I go back to Marx, which I don't know Marx that well, so I'm not an expert. He doesn't know me at all, so his loss. I was thinking about what kinds of realities would favor religion, which made me think of Marx and his quotation on, or his basically talking, when he talked about, you know, religion as the opium of the masses, he said a lot more than that. He said that that criticism of religion was not meant to basically to take the flower off the chains that humanity's living in. It's not meant to cut the flowers off of the chains. Religion being the supposed flower that change at least makes the change palatable. He said the criticism isn't meant to do that. It's to make us see that the condition that gives us the chains is what needs to be fixed and healed, and religion is putting the chains on us so that we can lose the chains and call the living flower. And it's a fucking beautiful idea. It's poetic. There's a certain immense type of beauty. It's also remarkably unchained to like a lot of Marx. I think it's wonderful, but unchained to kind of like the human biological condition and how we operate as humans. I just think Marx should have taken a few biology classes, even as much as we knew back in the 1840s or whatever. Anywho, it makes it say that the type of leads me into my next thing. The type of one type of realities which would favor religion is, if you think about it, those types of reality that don't that you can tell a convincing story that's better than reality, but also when it comes to death, the types of realities where we haven't invented Disneyland for the dead, which is I think where we're going. And I think this kind of led me on to a thought that I don't mean to be a sage, it just happens. What are you going to do? So there's going to be a time when we're going to get uploaded into the cloud. There's going to be, I think, kind of a battle between like advances in healthcare that'll keep us healthy longer, and advances in virtualization of consciousness. And I think the virtualization of consciousness is bound to win out. At least in the short term, and in the long term it won't even matter because we won't even know the difference. But anyway, doesn't matter. In the short term, there's going to be a new market created, and we haven't really... I'm ignorant of some other religions, but I want to think we haven't really explored the market of the dead for a while now, except maybe Catholicism, but even Catholicism is losing out. I'm going somewhere with this. We're going to be able to upload ourselves into the cloud. We're going to be able to test out different versions of that. We're going to have AI systems that work on the data of our own life and our own experience, build that up into something that we feel like we can almost step in mentally. We'll be able to test it out. They'll get better. The algorithms will get better. The whatever will get better. It will learn, blah, blah, blah. We'll spend more time in it. There will be... So what's going to happen? The pace of that technology will outstrip the pace of the technology of longer life. So we're going to have a heaven in the cloud. As long as you pay your $29.95 a month to keep Grandma Louise, up and running. I think that's guaranteed. I think that's there is a whole, it's markets, baby. It's markets. Exploit a new market, find a new market. So it's we are going to be able to just, as long as you keep you keep your Google Cloud service going for the dear departed, and then you've got your tiered plans. I know it sounds rather dystopian. I don't know what it is. I just think it's just bound to happen. There's a market there. It's not being satisfied. Technology doesn't have it yet, but it's there. So anyway, that was another thought I had. And my point number 4, metaphysics filled a gap. I'm really spoofing on this question, so we're going off from a little question. Whatever. Metaphysics filled a gap. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking when I wrote that down, but let me spoof on what I was thinking. Was that for most of our history, for most of the history of humanity, we've just been our baby period, and we haven't really known much of anything, so we had to tell stories to to fill up a certain amount of the cognitive landscape, to give ourselves a narrative and a structure to do things, because once you've got a mind that can forecast and think, what might happen if I do this, and once you have that thing, it's going to be filled up with stories and with instruction, kind of generalized instruction plans and stuff like that, because it's just waiting to be exploited. But we couldn't fill it up with, let's say, more scientific knowledge. Let's say stuff that's closer to being objective, even if objectivity is kind of a farce. But metaphysics. So yeah, metaphysics filled a gap, and maybe that gap is getting smaller now that we have more scientific tools and we can think that way. But before we had that, it had to fill a big gap. It absolutely had to, because you can't have no explanation when you have a thing that's just pulling in information as much as possible. This thing is like pulling information, trying to do something with it. You've got to have some kind of basic level framework on, like, this is what things are and this is how to go and this is what to do, because otherwise you're just done. So basic ideologies and religions had to come, as soon as we had the software to encompass something like that, they were on us, I'm sure. So those ideas had us. So and then my last point, which goes back a little bit to the talk about Marx and the talk about the monthly subscription charge to keep Granny alive in the cloud, is when my last point, number 5, was when science offers a vision of heaven to compete with religion. So, and I think that's basically just another way of saying when the cloud gets so good that's a scary thought, actually, because you're so... The limits of our biology, many of them can just be transcended in the cloud. They will be able to. And also, likely you'd be able to architect your own physics to a certain extent. Have a lot more potential freedom. And science is going to end up giving us a better version of heaven than religion. I think that's probably inevitable. But you know what's going to happen, quite likely? Our science is going to give us a cloud that may just recapitulate eternal themes of religion into our experience for our own pleasure, because it's still there. There are some things that are so basic that they're at like the ground level, and they might be religiously expressed, but that's just a species of the expression of, I need a compass, I need a point north, I need a point south, I need a challenge to get somewhere, I need a goal, I need a reward. And those things become expressed religiously sometimes. They may be expressed in secular ways, but they are so deep at the ground floor that when we get to the cloud, and we got a good cloud going, those same things are going to be there. Those we're gonna remanifest the Garden of Eden and the Tower of Babel and the fall and everything like that when we're in the cloud. That's very likely, or at least metaphors for that, which carry purpose, goals, self-fulfillment. Huh. So David G. Myers, I don't know that I answered the question as posed. I answered some of it as posed. The simple answer is yes, of course. Unless you're just counting up descendants and answering this post facto, you're gonna bring all your non-objective criteria into it, and it really can't be avoided. And then the rest of the points, I think I ordered them accurately enough that you can just put them in a formula, absolute value of. Anyway, so that was a very interesting question, David G. Myers, and thank you very much. I'm going to take a break.